Sarah, welcome to the Success with Soul podcast. I'm so excited to have you on here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. So, Sarah, tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and your entrepreneurial journey.
Yes. So I am a functional nutrition therapist. I have a certification as a certified nutrition therapist, and I run a private practice. So I work one-on-one with primarily women, primarily in the hormone healing, trying to get pregnant, during pregnancy, postpartum space. Um, And I also I have an online group coaching program called the Fertility Code, where I lead women and couples through a 12-week online-based program to prepare the body for pregnancy and increase chances of successful conception and pregnancy. So I've been running my business now for 15 years. I've been in private practice. So yeah, I've been in this world a long time, and the evolution of my business has shifted and changed as what it looks like. But I've, owned my business, been a private entrepreneur from the get-go, really. So here I am today.
I'm curious, how did you get into that space? Like, that's a very specific space to
Totally.
be in.
Yeah. So I originally when I graduated college in 2004, I was a public relations major. So my first job out of college was at a public relations firm, and I was always into health and nutrition. And all of a sudden, I'm like living in Chicago, working in the corporate world. And the first account that I got put on was Ore-Ida French fries, and they were launching a new microwavable French fry. So I'm like calling magazine editors, et cetera, like trying to get them to write about this product. And inside, I was like, this is against like every moral of my being right now, that I am like asking people to promote this product, which I think is like awful. So anyways, that was like a big awakening for me of like, this is not my career path. And as I said, I grew up in a household where health and nutrition were like the staple, like the backbone. We had a garden. My mom, made everything homemade. No, like none of my friends wanted to come to our house because we were like, had the healthy, weird food. My stepfather was a general surgeon, but had a strong emphasis on holistic medicine, and actually ended up leaving his surgery practice and starting a holistic medical practice. So this was like the background of my life. And when I was, in my early 20s, figuring out like, what am I going to do with my life? I was like, I'm not going to, working in the corporate world, doing public relations is not my stick. And so I Googled holistic nutritionist. And at the time, there was like 3 schools, one in California, Colorado, and New York. And I'm from Colorado originally. So I applied, I got in. It was a 2-year graduate studies program for nutrition therapy. So I moved back to Colorado, enrolled in Nutrition Therapy Institute, did this 2-year graduate degree. And for our final thesis independent study paper, we had to pick a topic. And at the time, I was in my early 20s, definitely experiencing hormonal imbalances, not trying to get pregnant by any means, but knew that in the future I wanted a family. And I kept thinking, if I was trying to get pregnant at this point, I definitely wouldn't be able to conceive. So I want to figure this out. So I basically dove into the research around how to increase fertility naturally, using mind-body therapies and food and lifestyle modifications and nutrients, etc. And so for 6 months, I was just like deep in the research, and then truly like started to apply all of the things that I learned in this research process to my own life, and was able to restore my own hormones and get my own cycle back. And that led me into, I obviously graduated school, and my first job was still in Chicago, but at an integrative fertility clinic, where it was basically like working with the more allopathic Western medicine model of fertility, along with the center that I worked at. We were hand in hand, and we had acupuncturists and massage therapists and nutritionists and practitioners doing Reiki, and we were working with the same patients as they were going through their like more traditional fertility treatments. And it was just like, oh my God, this is totally my calling. And so that's the world that I dove into. And pretty soon I stayed at that clinic for 2 years, really got like a foundation. And then I started my own business. I moved back to Colorado and have been in the fertility space and like the hormone healing. I work with a lot of women who are not trying to conceive, but are just trying to get their hormones in balance, because truly they're one and the same. Like if you're trying to get pregnant, you're up leveling your hormones. If you're not trying to get pregnant, but your hormones are a mess, you're doing all the same things. So I love it. It's super rewarding. I mean, helping couples who want nothing more than to have a child and for whatever reason are struggling, and then helping them to actually conceive this baby of their dreams is like the greatest gift in the world to do, for
Oh
sure.
my gosh. I imagine that you have baby pictures that people send to you.
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean,
Oh,
it's really and a lot of it is just, simple, like basic foundational work. It's like not rocket science, to be honest. And I feel like we just live in a culture where, we're over medicalized, in my opinion. And it's like getting back to the basic, like, what did you eat for breakfast today? How did you sleep? How do you move your body? What's your relationship with your partner like starting there versus, getting too deep into the weeds.
I love it. So what was the main reason why you joined the incubator? Like what led you to us?
Mhm. Yeah. So my business had been, honestly, like cruising along. When I moved back to Colorado after living in Chicago and working at the fertility center, that's when I started my own business, and I was part of a collective, another like integrative fertility center wellness, where it was several different practitioners, but we all ran our own business. And so what was amazing as like brand new back in Colorado in the space and starting my business is I was part of a collective where my business grew really fast because it was all referrals, and we sort of marketed ourselves as a collective, which is a lot easier than trying to make it on your own straight out of the gate. So anyways, I was part of that collective for 7 years, had an office space, and then I moved to Boulder and opened up an office space here. And my business just really organically grew. It grew through referrals. I worked with a lot of doctors, like, fertility doctors in the space and other OBGYNs, et cetera. And so I got a lot of referrals that way, just word of mouth, other practitioners. So it was like I never actually had to spend any time or energy or effort on advertising or marketing or SEO or any of that. Which looking back now, I'm like, God, that was amazing. I didn't know how like incredible that was at the time. And I had a website developer build a site for me, a newer site back in 2016. And he must have just done really well with SEO, because I started to get a ton of traffic just from Google. I put out a lot of blog content. And so my site ranked really well. And I got a lot of organic leads, again, without me literally doing anything except for putting out a lot of content, et cetera. And then COVID happened. 2020 happened. I had a baby in August of 2020. So, my business, my like, what's the word? Just like my participation in my business shifted. My priorities shifted having a baby. And then the landscape of the internet hugely shifted with COVID. By this point, I had taken my business totally remote in 2017. I left all my office spaces. I was working with so many clients around the country and the world that it was like, I don't need to have an office space and have that overhead. So I was already fully remote before COVID, but just the landscape of the internet shifted so drastically, as well as Google. Their core algorithms changed. Instagram's algorithms were changing. Like, I was sort of stepped away from my business to having a baby. And so all of a sudden I sort of like woke up in 2021, sort of like the summer of 2021. And I was like, wow, my business is like actually not doing great. Like the numbers were not great. And for the first time in my life, I was like, I actually need to focus on lead generation. And I had an online program, or the Fertility Code, which I built out in 2017. Sales for that had super declined. I wasn't getting the organic traffic from Google anymore, or not as much. I mean, there was just like definitely a decline. And I can't remember how I got on Kate's email list or her podcast, but literally I remember like one day I was out walking and I was listening to Kate's podcast, Success with Soul podcast. And she had a little ad in there about the incubator. And it was brand new. I think it was like just launching maybe in February. And this was like in May or something. And everything she said in that ad was like what I wanted. Like, do you want to run your business with soul? Like, do you want to like get off the hamster wheel and like just, you know, really like reinvesting in your business, but from a place of like heart space and soul space? And I was like, yes, yes, yes. So I applied, and then, you know, Kate and I had a lot of back and forth because my whole thing was like, I don't know if this can be fixed, you know, like tell me that this can be fixed sort of thing. And Kate was just amazing. She was so attentive, so responsive, like just really, you know, like answered all of my questions. Here's the deal. And so I thought, you know what, like I have nothing to lose. I need to do that. I need to like get back in my business. You know, I was like kind of had just been, for better or for worse, sort of like my business had been doing totally fine with a lot, actually not a lot of work from me, except for like my one-on-one work. And all of a sudden that wasn't working anymore. And so I signed up, I started in the incubator in June of 2021. And at that time, it was just three of us. Like it was me and Molly and Caroline. We were the first three. And it was like I think about that first year because we got so much of Kate's like one-on-one attentiveness because it was just like a small group. And then the incubator, you know, got super popular. I mean, she's done amazing. Like it's rocking now. And I signed on a second year. So I'm now in my second and a half year. So yeah, so that's how I found the incubator. That's how I got here. And it's like been definitely an incredible journey to be, you know, 2.5 years into the incubator.
And what would you say has been some of like your biggest wins inside of the incubator?
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, my first was just like logistical, pragmatic stuff, which was essentially I had a lot of different back-end programs going. I had like my email lists or, you know, Active Campaign. I had my Click Funnels. I had Deadline Funnel. I had like all these different systems running all of my back end. And one, I didn't know how to pretty much do any of it. So I was constantly like hiring people, you know, and paying other people to do like little tiny things that I should have known how to do. But again, like was kind of removed for that part of my business because I was like, it's doing just fine. You know, definitely was removed from like my SEO of my blog. I mean, all of it. And so that was the first thing Kate was like, I recommend getting all of your systems in one place. So I did a huge migration to Kartra, which was, I mean, essentially like recreating a lot of my sales funnels and sales pages and emails. I mean, it was a insane amount of work. I'm not going to lie. It was crazy and stressful in the time because I was like, this is way more than I had like imagined or had the bandwidth for, to be honest. But I had a great tech team that Kate recommended in the incubator that helped me a ton. So that was once it was all said and done, it was a huge win because now, one, I know how to do all of it myself. Like, yes, I have a Kartra VA who helps me with stuff that's like just not worth my time. It's honestly, you know, but I know how to do pretty much everything, which was awesome. And that was Kate's whole thing. She was like, not that you need to be spending your time doing all of those pieces of your business, but you should know how to do it all. Every single piece of your business, you should know how to do, which I totally didn't. So that was like a real game changer for me. And just like seamlessly solidifying everything into like one backend. So that was a big win. And then my next big project I took on was like getting into the fertility code, which is my 12-week course that I, you know, first launched back in 2017. And just like getting in there and being like, what's working, what's not, what needs to change, what's the price point need to be, etc. And Kate really like held my hand through that whole process of like really re-examining and totally changing, obviously, honestly, like a lot of the fertility code. The content was still the same, but the way that it was presented and structured and priced, etc., totally shifted, which again, I would not have known where to even start, you know, without Kate's help in the incubator. And then now I'm in the place where I just rebuilt my website. It needed to be like redesigned and redeveloped because it was old. It'd been, you know, built in 2016. So I just finished that project in December. And now I'm like going through, I have like 280 blog posts from all of these years. So now again, with the incubator's help and, Kate's like checklist, I'm going through and really like revamping all of these blog posts and getting them super SEO optimized so that they rank again and the site ranks, and just really trying to build that organic traffic that I had super strong. And I haven't lost all of it. I just had a little dip for sure. But now again, my attention is way focused back on my business. And so that's like my big project now. And again, I would not have even known where to start without the incubator's support on like how to get in there and like do SEO myself without, yes, I have an SEO company that I have helping. But I know how to do it myself, which is like super huge. And I just feel like I have so much more control and like knowing what in the heck is going on in my business, which I feel like for a lot of years, it was just like, well, everything's going good. So if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing,
Yeah.
But looking back, I feel like, yeah, I look at a lot of the new members in the incubator, or not new members, but women who are like really early on in their early
Yeah.
stage of their business. And I'm like, God, you guys are in the best phase possible, because they're putting in all of the right tools straight from the gate, like building such a solid foundation, because the incubator teaches you how to do that. And for some of us who have like more established businesses, I mean, it's been amazing because we've like, really learned the tools, but are having to go back in and be like fixing some of those cracks that were in the foundation that never really got established to begin. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think about migration. I have dealt with like active campaign migrations to other things. And boy, the bigger your list, the
oh my God.
more of a headache it is. So totally am with you that how wonderful to straight out of the gate just have all your systems in place and
Yeah.
know. And I will say we are also going through our SEO on our blog post. So it's like everything Kate teaches y'all is because we are doing that as well.
Doing it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I love. Like she even, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was just like, we had a call last week and, she was saying that you guys are going through and like making sure all your blogs are properly formatted, styled, and etc. And, she shared her like template style guide for us, which is like invaluable, to have a template to work from so that we can all go into our businesses and our blogs and be like, okay, here's this, create a style guide for your own blog and your own site and your own brand. But to create that from scratch, oh my gosh, like I never would have done it, So again, like that's like, there's just so much invaluable resources that like, money, you couldn't even put a price on it. So
I love that. So, Sarah, what's been your biggest risk or that you've taken or the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome in your business?
I mean, joining the incubator was a risk, it was like
Okay.
definitely like it was a big business expense at a time when my business was not making a lot of money. Like I didn't invest in it at a time where my business was making plenty of money and everything was great. Well, of course I didn't, because at that time, like I wasn't thinking anything was wrong. Of course, I didn't think I needed like a business coaching program, So at a time when my business was like kind of on the down, I chose to make a pretty large business investment in my business, which again, I had a lot of conversations with Kate around that, and I listened to a lot of her podcasts. And that was the whole thing. It's like, well, if you don't invest in your business, then nothing changes, and that's what I like really got clear about. It was like, well, I can do nothing and nothing's going to change, or I can take a risk, make a business investment in my business and hope that I get a return on investment here, So, and I have for sure, by far. But that was definitely like a big business investment risk at the time, or, I considered it a risk because I didn't know like if what was going to come from it essentially.
I love that you said you did that at a place where your business actually was not doing well
Yeah.
and you took on this investment, you know, financially pretty big, I'm sure at the
Mhm.
time. So tell me what you would tell someone in your position. My business is not doing so well. How can I possibly invest, take this, financial investment, pretty big investment while my business is not doing well? How would you reframe that for someone as someone who has literally been in that spot?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, kind of going back to where I thought, how I thought it through in my head, which was like, if I don't do anything, which means I don't make this investment or I don't put any money into it, then nothing truly is going to, most likely nothing is going to change. My sales aren't going to go up, my revenue is not going to go up. The way that I feel about my business isn't going to shift or change. And I had enough, like, just intuitive knowing, and from like what I'd read about the incubator, everything I'd listened to, what my conversations with Kate, that like I just really trusted that no matter what, I'm going to get something out of this for sure. And I truly think that in some capacity, I will get my return on investment, whether that's in like actual dollars or in just the shifting and changing in the nature of what my business looked like and what it felt like to me. And so it was worth it. It was totally worth it, of like, you got to put the effort and the time and the money often into something if you actually want change and shift.
Absolutely. I love that. So how would you say your relationship to your business, how has that changed over the last 6 or 12 months?
That's been interesting. Even in, like, I think maybe a year into the incubator, I kind of just had this like sort of pretty low point. I remember actually being on a call with Kate and Rachel and being like in tears. I mean, like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. Like, was just like, I'm working harder at my business than I ever have, and yet I'm not seeing the rewards, which was just like, this is crazy. And now, that was maybe 6 or more months ago. And I think both Kate and Rachel were like, well, what do you want to do? Take a break. Why don't you take a break? And them sort of giving me the permission to do that, actually for me was like, I don't want to take a break. I actually like wanted to get more invested and more motivated to change things, because at the end of the day, I truly love what I do. I love working with women. I love changing women's lives. I love being this advocate, this educator, this resource for women at a time when women are like, desperately seeking support around their bodies and their hormones and how they feel, and whether they're trying to have a baby or not. Like, women are really seeking super attentive, supportive medical care more than ever, I think, and I offer that for them big time. And I truly love what I do in that regard. What I also realized was like, but I don't love all the like business part of it, which I don't think is unusual. Like, I'm like a health and wellness practitioner, the business side of things is definitely not in my comfort zone. And yet, through the incubator, what's been great is I know what I need to do. Like, I have an actual task list and I have direction, so that when I sit down at my computer in my like dedicated, work time, where it's not client interfacing time, it's like working on my business time, I know what I need to do. Where for years and years, I actually didn't know what I should be doing. Like, I'm like, I don't know what I should be doing for my business. I knew should probably be doing some things, but I like truly didn't even have a direction. So therefore I didn't have a task list. And so when I sat down, I didn't get anything done. Whereas now, my task list is huge. So a lot of times I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I have so much to do. But I can like just break it into little, manageable pieces, which again, I learned a lot about that in the incubator, is like looking at the year and separating it into quarters and setting goals, per quarter or per month, or however you want to set it up. But I just feel like I have so much more direction now, so that I don't feel overwhelmed. I actually feel like excited and motivated and I know what I need to do, and therefore like can stay on task, which feels so much more invigorating than just being like, I don't even know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything kind of thing.
So would you say that your business is more systematized now?
Totally. Yes.
Awesome.
And I hired the people, I also got really clear with myself around like, there are certain things that, yes, I know how to do. And yes, that's important. I know how to do these pieces of my business. And it's not worth my time to
Yeah.
do those things. So I'm going to hire people to do the things that it doesn't make sense for me to spend my time and energy on. And so I've got a great team, that helps me keep all of the systems running so that I can truly do what I love to do, which is client interfacing. That's what I'm good at. That's like my magic. I don't need to be spending a bunch of time updating sales pages in Kartra. So I also got super clear, and I feel like that was a big thing with the incubator. It's like how to build a team, how to hire, how to like get help to run your business so that you don't feel like you're having to do it all.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So I'm hopeful that you're feeling less stressed maybe now in your
Totally.
business.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, I'm still in the like, my sales are not where I want them to be yet, but I have finally feel like I've got all the pieces in place so that I know what my revenue generating activities are, and I know that how much time needs to be spent on that. Whereas again, before the incubator, it was sort of like, yeah, I didn't know any of that, or I just didn't like have that frame of mind, and so I was sort of, um, I don't even know if I felt stressed before. I just felt really disconnected, which I guess then when I really did have to like kind of think about numbers and sort of where all the pieces of my business were, that's when the stress would come. So I just like chose to not think about those things, which is not a good idea. Or now it's like I know everything's transparent, and it doesn't feel scary or stress producing anymore.
I love that. I love that you use the word everything is transparent. So if you were to use one word to
Mhm.
describe your experience inside the incubator, what would that word be?
Transformative. Myself and my business. I've transformed in my relationship to my business and the way in which I participate in and run my business has been highly transformative. And I feel like what my business looks like and the products that I'm selling and the way that I generate revenue has been transformed. So transformative.
Oh, love that. So, what is one piece of advice that you would give someone who's considering joining the incubator?
Do it. Take the leap and do it. I mean, as you and I were speaking about earlier, like I get it as a, early stage small business owner or even like a more established small business owner, no matter what, most of the time it's like your every expense that's going out the door is like closely monitored. And so for a lot of women, it's like, I don't know, can I really make this investment in my business? And I think that if you truly want to like get inside and know all of the ins and the outs and the dusty corners of your business and how to do it all, how to do it all, not saying that you have to do it all like we were just talking about, like definitely hiring help and support is beneficial, but like really just getting to know your business, that's what the incubator does. I mean, fully, and from a place of, what's resonated with me all along is that this like running your business from a place of soul, from a place of heart, not this like really masculine model of like work harder, work longer kind of thing, but more this really intuitive feminine model of running a business and generating money, like and making the money that you want to make, whatever that looks like. It's very different for everybody, and um but yeah, I mean, I think my big piece of advice would be like, it's worth it. Do it. You're worth the investment. Your business is worth the investment. And truly, like, I don't even think it can be on the sales page for the incubator or any of, like, it can't be explained the amount of like benefit, the amount of like return on your investment is so much more than you could ever just like put into words for someone to read. Like, I've gotten so much more out of it than I could have ever imagined. So yeah, I would say just like take the leap and do it.
Ah, love it. So, Sarah, this is my favorite part of all podcast interviews, which is our lightning round. So, I'm just going to ask you questions and you just tell me the first thing that comes up. So, the
Okay.
first one is, what's your favorite way to make time for self-care while running your own business?
I schedule exercise on my calendar, which means no clients can schedule that time. My husband can't have that time. My son can't have that time. Like, it's literally, all week, like at the beginning of the week, like I get in there and find little, pockets of an hour, 75 minutes for exercise, which to me is like my most critical self-care.
Oh, love that. What is your exercise? I'm curious.
Yoga, hiking, running are like my biggies.
Oh, love it. Love it. What's one tool or strategy that you use to help with time management?
Um, I mean, honestly, my calendar, like I
Yeah.
literally block, I mean, I put like, shower, make breakfast. Here's my exercise. Obviously, all my client appointments on there, dedicated like work time, where I'm like, I'm not with clients, my phone's off, I don't have any dingings. Like, I'm just really, being creative, writing emails, writing blog posts, writing social media content. So truly, like, time management is all about my calendar and like actually designating specific times where I have a to-do list, but then, at the beginning of the week, I take that to-do list and like actually put it on my calendar in chunks of time so that it gets done.
That sounds a lot like something that we practice in Team KK that Kate all taught us. And that was Monday hour one, which is basically like a Monday. First thing you do Monday morning is like, what is everything that needs to happen this week? And just start plugging it in the calendar.
Yeah.
And when I mean everything, I mean literally everything. Like, I have to go to the mailbox because at the end of the day, it's still time and
Yeah.
you have to allot that time somewhere. So it
Exactly.
sounds very similar to what we practice here at Team KK.
Yeah.
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 So what's the most powerful business mindset or entrepreneurial book that you've ever read? This is the one that you're going to reference over and over again. It's made the biggest difference in your life.
Um, the Atomic Habits book. I'm blanking if that's the exact.
James Clear, I think.
Yeah, if well, I can't remember if it's like just Atomic Habits or I don't know. But that book was really changing for me in terms of just like how to establish habits that will move the needle, and it's like the little things that we do, but doing them consistently truly changes the needle. And that's like for my personal life, but it definitely for my business.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the compound, right? The little ones, and then they add up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Everyone at Team KK has read Atomic Habits. It's one of our books, like a part of our onboarding.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it is. It's truly, and I like feel like go back. Like sometimes I've read it, hard copy, but I have the audio, and sometimes like when I'm out on a walk and I just need a little like, you know, reviving and like revigoration, I like listen to it because it's just a good reminder of like, yeah, it's just the little things that we do day after day after day that make the biggest shift.
Absolutely. So, what's your favorite quote, mantra, or affirmation for when things get tough and you feel like giving up?
We can do hard things. Glennon Doyle says that. And I like think about it all the time when it's, whether it's like personal life, hard things, or like in my business when I was like, yeah, had a pretty low point in this past year where it was like, we can do hard things. I can do this. And all I need to do is make the next right choice, decision, step, like just one, and then another one, and then another one. So yeah, Glennon Doyle, both of those are from her.
I love Glennon Doyle, and I love that. And I use that with my kids a lot. Like, you can do
That's
hard things. You can.
totally.
So Sarah, we're in the Success with Soul podcast. What does success with soul mean to you?
Success with soul means having, for me, having financial success, meaning living the life that I want to live without having financial stress, while also being in love with my business and the way that I'm doing it.
Sounds like my definition of success with soul too. Sarah, it's been such a pleasure to have you here on the podcast. I mean, I know you from inside the incubator, but just really learning about your business and your journey has been amazing. And tell our listeners where they can connect and find you.
Yes. So my website is my full name. So that's sarahjanesandy.com, SARAH. sarahjanesandy.com is my website. As I said earlier, I have a ton of content on there, blog content on every subject related to female hormones that you could imagine. Thefertilitycode.com is my online fertility product. So that's a 12-week module-based online on-demand fertility program to set yourself up for pregnancy success. And then on Instagram, it's also my full name, so at Sarah Jane Sandy, and same with Facebook. It's facebook.com/Sarah Jane Sandy.
Okay.
So those are all the places to find me. And I offer one-on-one consults, and then I also, of course, offer my online group coaching through the Fertility Code.
That's awesome. We will definitely include everything in our show notes, so our listeners can find you. Thank you so much for being with us today, Sandy. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.